Hi, I'm Barry Ostrowski. At RW.Barnabas HEALTH, we believe that everyone needs to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support the important educational programming produced by the CAUCUS Educational Corporation.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by TD Bank, the New Jersey Education Association, the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. RW.Barnabas HEALTH, JAG Physical Therapy, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and by Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Agnes Veris studio here at NJTV. We welcome our good friend, Dr. Joe Marbach, president of Georgian Court University. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you, Steve. Good to be here.
For those of you who do not know, Georgian Court, describe it.
Georgian Court is a school of about 2,000 students. We're co-educational over the last 4 years. We were founded by the Sisters of Mercy. So this is our 108th year of operation, and we're located in Lakewood, New Jersey, the fastest growing city in New Jersey.
Absolutely. By the way, Dr. Marbach is also, before he became president of Georgian Court, he did a lot of political analysis for us on public broadcasting. We'll do some political stuff as well, big picture. But let's talk about the higher ed picture. The student body that you have, you're very concerned about their ability. Again, I said this before, I'll say it again. For those of you who are dealing with allergies, throat issues, that explains my voice. My heart goes out to you. So how about this one? The question of student affordability, huge. At Georgian Court, you in fact froze tuition for a period of time and then only increased it by 2% recently. How is that done?
Well, it's done with a lot of sacrifice, and we have to limit any increases because higher education is labor intensive. It's faculty, it's staff. We're not delivering widgets, we're delivering knowledge. So that's all labor intensive. So we've got to try to keep our cost as limited as possible. Sometimes our amenities don't live up to the standards that other schools are putting out there. But our student body isn't worried about that. I'll give you some numbers. The graduating class that just walked across the stage a couple weeks ago, 48% were the first in their family to go to college.
First?
First. 51% of that graduating class were eligible for a PELL grant. That meant they were coming from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So we're supporting first generation, new students. We're the new Ellis Island. We're the new American dream.
So let me ask you something. For many of these students for whom it's the first time they've been to college, first in their family, what are many of them facing? Challenges?
It's tremendous challenges. They've got family issues back home because they're the first in the family. So do they get the family support that they need? Do they know to apply for all the student aid that they can afford? We have students that won't fill out 3 questions in a student financial aid form, and they're not eligible for the New Jersey Tuition Assistance Grant.
And they don't fill it out for fear of?
They just don't know. So we've got to walk them through the process, and we hold a lot of hands, but we're very good at mentoring students, and that's what I promise parents as they come into Georgian Court. Your student will find a mentor before he or she leaves.
Joe, you know, you talk about aid to students, financial help. You were saying before we got on the air that, look, no matter who the governor is going to be in the state of New Jersey, unless there's some huge pot of money that all of a sudden shows up, there's not going to be more money for the independent or even the public.
Even the public,
colleges and universities. But you did say if the money doesn't go to the institutions, it's critical that students continue to get government support. Be specific.
Well, the state has defunded operations at public and private schools as well. But they have continued to increase the amount of tuition aid grants, tag grants that they give to students. And that allows students to choose the type of institution that fits them best. So there's a TAG grant award for community colleges. There's one for the public colleges. There's one for Rutgers. There's one for private institutions. And they have different levels of funding, but it enables or allows students to afford to choose the type of education that fits them best. So if you want small classrooms, teacher ratio 13:1, the Georgian Court setting, we might be the one that will appeal to you. If you like the bigger class, you don't mind being one of 200 in a big lecture hall at Rutgers, you can have that option as well.
Joe, do you think the state government, federal government, government overall, policymakers should have a higher ed agenda policy that's strategic? Or do you pretty much say, listen, we're on our own. We have to figure out how to get it done, each institution?
Well, I think one of the things that we've talked about in the independent sector is trying to...
By the way, describe the independent sector.
The independent sector are the nonprofit universities operating in New Jersey.
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit. So there are 14 of us that operate in New Jersey. So in a sense, New Jersey is underserved from the independent sector, the nonprofit sector. I came from the Philadelphia market. There were 11 Catholic universities just in the Philadelphia market.
That's right.
Here in New Jersey, there's only 6 Catholic universities. So the state is underserved, and sometimes we wonder why are we losing so many students to Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, Virginia. We don't offer them all the options that they might be able to have.
Can I do a little political stuff with you?
Sure.
The tone of political discourse in this country that people worry about on a lot of levels, and the role of technology in that is?
Well, technology both increases choices to individuals, and it also can limit choices. Increasing choices in where do you get your information? Where do you get your news? Today, fewer and fewer people use mainstream media to get their news. In fact, it's suspect. So now if you're liberal, you'll watch MSNBC and those websites and beyond. If you're conservative, it's Fox and it's, pick any of those other websites. And so you don't get to see the other side.
So you get to see what reinforces what you think you already
Reinforces your vision, your prism is
What's
very
wrong
limited.
with that, Joe?
Well, it doesn't give you a chance to consider the other side. It doesn't give us a chance to meet in the middle. The other side of technology is that we've gotten so good at redistricting that we put all the Republicans in one district, all the Democrats in one district, and we know that who votes in primaries? It's party loyalists. People who are very conservative, people who are very liberal.
What's wrong with that?
We end up with very liberal candidates and very conservative candidates.
So what kind of Congress do we get? What kind of legislature do we get?
You get bipolar, you get polarized. You get bipolar, yeah. But
I don't know if that's, listen, we'll have a mental health professional and talk about that. But you do get this polarized thing that goes on. We're Republican conservatives, you're Democrat liberals, and we don't agree on anything.
Can't meet in the middle.
And so what does that mean in terms of the public's business, public policy, getting things done?
Well, and it really leads to this healthcare consideration that the Senate's doing, and it's in secret because you can't leak any. Yeah, you can't leak any information as it goes out, or you get party line votes, straight party line votes. Now, I think we need to reconsider that because New Jersey will have an opportunity to make more competitive districts. When we redistricted a few years ago, we made very incumbent-friendly districts. So we really polarized our own legislature. I think we need to look at making election districts more competitive to get to the middle ground.
Last question. At Georgian Court, a supporter of public broadcasting, and I've been to your campus, and I've sensed when I'm there that there's a ability to have an honest dialogue without the vitriol, without the anger. I don't know how much people listen to other people's point of view anywhere. Do you have any reason to be really hopeful that in our nation, our state and our nation, that the tone's going to change?
Well, just based on the students that we've taught and that I've gotten to know, they're new to the system. So there was a lot of concern when Trump was first elected. We had some meetings. We talked to them about how impactful the president can and cannot be because of our systems of checks and balances. And I think that allayed a lot of their fears. But we've had these open dialogues. And I'm very positive. I got in this business because I'm an optimist, and I think our young people are going to do great things.
Dr. Joe Marbach is the president of Georgian Court University, based again?
Lakewood, New Jersey.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it, buddy.
My pleasure, Steve.
State of Affairs, we'll be right back, right after this. New Jersey is about to elect a new governor. This fall, I'll be sitting down with Democratic candidate Phil Murphy and Republican candidate Kim Guadagno. So what do you think the #1 challenge is facing New Jersey's next governor? Share your thoughts with me on Twitter, @SteveAutobato. Do it now. Let your voice be heard, because democracy is not a spectator sport. State of Affairs is pleased to welcome former Governor Jim McGreevey, who is the chairman of the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, and Edwin Ortiz, former client of the New Jersey Reentry Corporation. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Jim, we've talked many times about the issues of those who have been incarcerated or are coming back into society. Yep. We'll tell your story in a second. Describe the organization, and then we'll bring this guy in.
Sure. The New Jersey Reentry Corporation is dedicated to helping returning persons, court-involved persons, rebuild their lives. They're coming back after what they call football time in prison and jail. I mean, literally 10, 15, 20 years. And Stephen, I think what we do, and God willing we do well, is we link people to addiction treatment, which is so critically important. 70% of the people behind bars are active in their addiction. In addition, we link them to health care through a federally qualified health center or a hospital. Then employment and training. I mean, we work with one-stops, we work with corporations. I'd like to shout out to Kevin Cummings of Investors Bank. We work closely with the business community, which is important, and then legal services. So many of these guys have outstanding warrants. They come home after 10, 15, 20 years, and there's a whole slew of warrants, and so we try to clean up those warrants so they can go on. And lastly is also mentoring and spiritual care so that they understand, most importantly, they can't think and act with the same way they did that brought them to prison in the first place. So it's transformative.
Edwin, in 1986, your life changed.
Yes, it did.
How so?
In 1986, I was suffering from addiction. In order to support my addiction, I was committing crimes, specifically armed robberies. Unfortunately, someone lost their life. As a result, I went to prison, and I spent the last 30 years in prison.
30 years in prison?
Yes. I was released September 22nd of 2016.
You spent 30 years in prison. You actually told us before that I asked, when did you guys connect and start working together? Yeah. You thought it was at a certain time. When did you know Jim McGreevey?
Well, I met Jim the second day he was elected.
He didn't know that?
No, he did not. I never told him.
Until just now.
I was in the chapel at Always State Prison. And Jim came into the chapel the next day.
As governor?
As governor. He was the elect governor.
This is before he started this work.
Right. So when I watched it on NJTV that he was starting a reentry corporation program, it was no surprise to me.
You sensed it then. So let me ask you, 30 years, you come out, what are you facing?
Challenges, difficult challenges. For example, literacy as far as computers. Before I went into prison, you know, the telephone was a Motorola phone, the big battery ones. And then you had the one that folded up. You didn't have access to internet and different technology that exists today. So that's one of my biggest challenges, is computer literacy.
So that's just one. Today, I mean, I don't want to give a short shrift version to this. You are working. You are making a difference. Describe your life today.
Well, today I have two jobs, thanks to the Reentry Corporation. I'm a taxpayer, you know, which feels good. I'm not, you know, no longer a threat to society. I've transformed my life. I speak to the youth when I have an opportunity to speak to the youth. And I also work with the Reentry Corporation at the job where I'm at. I mentor other prisoners that come through the program.
Jim, what are you thinking right now?
I'm just so happy. And Edwin's about to go into the bricklayers, the union. And this has changed his life. And I think, Stephen, what we try to get across to the public, I remember when I was in seminary in New York and I was trying to get somebody an identification, a birth certificate. And it was almost
someone
impossible.
Who had come out.
Yeah, someone who would come, thank you, someone who had come out of prison. And all they had was their Department of Corrections identification. And it was virtually worthless. And so that if you want general assistance, if you want employment, if you want housing, you need an identification. It's something that so many of us take for granted. And it was almost unfathomable. I mean, I remember going to Social Security. I remember going to New York and just like this poor fellow wanted to do the right thing. And here Edwin is at the Reentry Corporation. I want to thank, you know, Governor Christie, the Senate President Sweeney, Speaker Prieto. What we're able to do is to help them with their identification, get them linked to health care. So whether they have diabetes or HIV or whatever it is that they have their medication, link them to employment and services.
By the way, you mentioned the state. Why is the state relevant in this?
Because the state funds most of our program. In addition, we get monies from the federal government and from
private
nonprofits.
funding as well.
Yes.
And by the way, we're involved in a public service awareness initiative with Jim's organization. So when you see PSA spots, that's what you're talking about. By the way, why do you want public to even know about this?
Because we have to shift the opinion. Because people see people like Ed and they say, all right, why are we spending this kind of money?
Yeah, why are we doing that?
Because when you look to, I mean, candidly, that 1% of the population that's committing a disproportionate number of crimes, if Edwin comes out and I can make his life whole, if I can give him a pathway to employment, if I can reconnect him to his family, if I can keep him sober, he doesn't want to go back to prison. 30 years in a cage? He wants this, but Stephen, it's so difficult. I did it myself once. I came out and I tried to get welfare, and I sat in the lines and went to the One Stop, and they're good people on both sides, but it's difficult. And so we're one-stop shopping. My job every day is to make him a success.
So let me ask you, as people watch you and listen to Jim right now, who are saying, you know what, it's not really for the rest of us to care about this because you did it, but you did your time.
Right.
Why should everyone else watching right now on all the different platforms we're on, why should they care about your story and others like you? Why are they invested in this?
Right. Like you said, you said a key word, invested. This is an investment because a lot of men and women that are coming home from prison came from dark places. And
you grew up right here in Newark, in Columbus Homes.
Yes, in one of the worst projects in
One
the
of the
city
worst.
of Newark. And I went from a dark place to a darker place. But unfortunately, I didn't allow myself to be consumed, and I found myself, and I transformed my life in prison, in that dark place. But people should care because it's a public safety issue. If you don't invest in men coming home from prison and giving them an opportunity to find employment, to go to school, to receive the counseling that they need, to restore their driver's license, because as Jim alluded to, I had fines that I have to pay. And
Do you have it now?
No, I'm paying through the reentry program. I was able to make a payment plan and restore my license.
Because you get your license only when you make those payments.
Right. Once you start making a payment, you're eligible to take the permit.
And without that car, and without that ability to transport yourself, working becomes very challenging.
Absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of jobs require
catch-22.
you. Yes, a lot of jobs require you to have a license, a valid license. And it's important for the taxpayers of New Jersey to understand that their money are being spent wisely because you're either going to spend $5,000 in helping these men reacclimate back into society.
Or how much per year in prison? What do you think, Jim?
$50K.
No!
$50K.
$50,000 a year?
Yes. To keep somebody locked up per inmate. And so that's what we're saying. Our cost is $2,200 per person. $2,200 per person. And the reality is, nationwide, the average is about 68% of people who recidivate go back to prison within 3 to 5 years. Yes. And our benchmark is 19.7. That means 4 out of 5 people do what Edwin does. They reconnect with their family. They're living sober lives. They're working. They're contributing to the community. So if you do it, like, I appreciate what Edwin said about investment, but I would argue that this is a spiritual, a moral obligation, that these are people who grew up in dark places. They didn't grow up in families the way you and I did. And now, by virtue of Edwin's own determination, the services we provide, he's turned his life around 180 degrees.
Finally, I want to ask you this, not to be self-serving. You watched public broadcasting when you were in.
Yes, I did.
It was important to you.
Yes, it was. You know, it's important to stay politically aware of what's going on. And one of the things that I always watched during the elections was your TV show.
Oh, say, no, don't talk about me. I'm sorry.
So wait, I did the last question.
Stop,
How
Jim,
much
don't-
older is Steve Adubato in person now than when you watched him 30 years ago?
He looks a lot younger.
Oh, Lord.
McGreevey, you had to go there? Look at you. You haven't changed. You haven't changed one bit.
Life is good.
Jim McGreevey, former governor. You were going to say, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I just wanted to say that, you know, it's not just about, you know, employment, finding a job,
Right.
and things of that nature. It's the Reentry Corporation is a family to me. So, fortunately, I have a family. I have that support network, but I also have a second family in the Reentry Corporation.
Edwin, we are rooting for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks so much, Stephen.
You have not changed. Still got that crazy sense of humor. Jim McGreevey, former governor, but now chairman of the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, maybe the most important work he's done in his life, and also Edwin Ortiz, who is a former client at the corporation. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Stay right there. We'll be right back right after this. New Jersey is about to elect a new governor. This fall, I'll be sitting down with Democratic candidate Phil Murphy and Republican candidate Kim Guadagno. So what do you think the #1 challenge is facing New Jersey's next governor? Share your thoughts with me on Twitter @Steve Adubato. Do it now. Let your voice be heard, because democracy is not a spectator sport. We welcome Zeke Stokes, Vice President of Programs at GLAAD-Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Good to see you, Zeke.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
I say Trump, you say?
Erasure.
What?
We've seen this president, this administration, since day one, begin to erase our community. The first thing we saw was the appointment of an incredibly anti-LGBTQ cabinet to positions like commerce, education, positions that the previous administration had placed very pro-LGBTQ equality and acceptance leaders in those positions. We've been erased from those agencies. We saw the census dump the LGBTQ identifying question for the 2020
The president do that alone, did he? Is he driving all this?
He did actually do that alone.
Executive order?
It was not executive order. He can do that through a simple regulatory process. Absolutely. But we've also seen the LGBTQ websites deleted from all the agencies across the administration, starting with the
What's their thinking?
I think they're trying to appeal to a base that they believe doesn't support our community, but the truth of the matter is that Americans, by and large, support equality and acceptance for their friends and neighbors and family members. And we are those friends and family and neighbors and aunts and uncles and doctors and lawyers, and we're in every community across this country. So while the American community has been increasingly accepting equality for all people in the LGBTQ community, we're seeing this president actually take us backwards.
Top issues for GLAAD would be?
Well, we're
Top three.
Top three. Well, we're very focused on storytelling. That's what we do. We've been around for 30 years, and we really specialize in telling stories through the media, leveraging news, entertainment, film, television, gaming, comics, movies, music, to tell stories. We know that when you know someone personally who's LGBTQ, it's the most common denominator when it comes to accepting our community. But the second best thing is seeing it in the media, and that's why things like Will and Grace back in the 90s, Ellen coming out, Rosie O'Donnell, and so many others who have told their stories in very big, broad ways in the media have made such a difference for our community over the last 30 years. Now we're really focused, especially in light of this administration, on making sure that we don't turn the clock backward. We were living pretty large last year when this election took us by surprise, quite frankly. The Obama administration was incredibly supportive. We had repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We had overturned the so-called Defense of Marriage Act in the courts. We had gotten marriage equality in 50 states in the District of Columbia. So this was a wake-up call for our community, and we're fighting back.
Zeke, two quick things. What is this unity project called, Together Movement, involving some other groups have previously been discriminated against?
Sure. So this election, quite frankly, brought two things into real clear focus. The first was that we had to fight back, and we've talked a little bit about that. But the second thing is that we had to lock arms with all marginalized communities, and I'm talking about women, I'm talking about people of color, Muslims, immigrants, all those who are under attack from this administration, from this president. And this ampersand that I'm wearing actually is the symbol of that movement, and it's all about standing together across all communities, not only to fight back, but to stand up for equality, for acceptance, and the idea that America is made up of all of these things, not one thing.
Zeke, where does New Jersey stand in terms of policies and attitudes regarding the issues you care most about compared to the rest of the nation?
Well, New Jersey has had some great leadership that has really moved the ball forward on equality in the state at the state level. So there's some great policies on the books. What we're trying to make sure of is that we don't see states like New Jersey go the way of Texas, South Dakota, others who have put new laws on the books in this sort of new, very volatile political climate that actually turn the clock backwards. We've talked about so-called bathroom bills that keep transgender people from using the bathroom that aligns with their gender identity. And we've seen a lot of states seeing this opportunity, the opportunity of this administration to sort of circumvent the progress that's been made and turn the clock backwards. And so we're really on guard for that. But New Jersey's in a great place.
You know, speaking of New Jersey in a great place, I don't often talk about this on the air, but in the mid-1980s in the state legislature, in a different time, a different life, as a member of the legislature, I was proud to be the prime co-sponsor of the anti-gay and discrimination bill, anti-discrimination bill against people based on sexual orientation. It failed miserably. It took 7 years in the state of New Jersey for this bill to pass. I was long out of the legislature in this business. But more importantly, the point is, it banned discrimination against people based on sexual orientation in housing and employment.
Right.
7 years.
That was a huge, huge accomplishment.
Are we at risk at going backwards?
we are at risk of going backwards, and the media plays a critical role in that. When you see the news media focus so squarely on just a few issues, on just a few communities, really just covering the same thing over and over on both sides.
But sorry for interrupting,
Yeah.
the minute I have left. But public attitudes back in the 80s, trust me, it was almost impossible to get that passed. Public attitudes now are much more positive and accepting.
They are, and that's why there's this disconnect between what's happening in hearts and minds across this country and what's happening with this administration, and with a lot of state legislatures who see this as an opening to move things backward. And it really goes to how important elections are in this country, and GLAAD is a nonpartisan organization. We don't get involved in endorsing or supporting specific
But
candidates.
who becomes the governor of New Jersey in November 2017 matters.
It absolutely matters, and who becomes the governor of every state across this country, and every congressional district, and every Senate race. Those are elections that matter, and they have dire consequences, not just for our community, but for all communities.
Zeke Stokes from GLAAD, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing every day.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Check you out on State of Affairs next time. By the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you see how to follow me on Twitter. We'll let us know any issue that we should be covering. Catch you next time on State of Affairs. Thank you, Zeke.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by TD Bank, the New Jersey Education Association, the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor, RW.Barnabas HEALTH, JAG Physical Therapy, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and by Choose New Jersey. Promotional support provided by Observer New Jersey Politics. And by Jaffe Communications, where business, media, and government converge in New Jersey.
Together, we're beating cancer. Together, we're unlocking the mysteries of the brain. Together, we're changing the way healthcare is provided, delivered, and imagined. Welcome to RW.Barnabas Health, New Jersey's most comprehensive healthcare system, with 41,000 medical professionals serving millions of people throughout New Jersey. So when it comes to your health and wellness, you're never alone. RW.Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.